Good stuff. Good morning, everyone. So welcome to lesson 4 of our video series looking at employability skills. So today we've got Rob Knowles with us again from Kubit Limited. And for this particular lesson, we've also brought in Nick Pettit from RG Carter. So today's session, we're going to be looking at interviews, hopefully giving you some hints and tips on things to take into an interview and areas to consider. But before we dive into that, Nick, can I just ask you to give us a bit of an introduction from yourself and also RG Carter to kick us off?
Hello everyone, Nick Pettit. I work for RG Carter, which is a construction company. We built the Bomber Command in Lincoln, the Travel Lodge in Lincoln. We're doing the Holiday Inn extension, loads of housing, the Epic Centre on the showground. That gives you an idea of what we do. I'm the business development and client manager, so I look after the clients and I look after our project teams. I also sit on the panel that interview people that would like a job, people that want a career, apprentices. So that's where I sit. It's a fantastic job, so I will tell you all the best bits about it.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Nick. Yeah, so we'll kick off then. So interviews, a lot of people find interviews quite daunting. They've done that application process, that's gone really well. They've got the foot in the door. So interviews, quite nervous potentially. So, I think, Rob, I'm going to come to you first on this. How would you go about potentially preparing for an interview after you've, been successful at an application? When does that interview start as well, I suppose, is a good question to kick off.
Okay, so I'd suggest that the first thing to think about is to regard any interview process as a competition. Be under no illusion it's a competition. So the employer is going to spend time and money trying to find the best person or people for their organization. And that could be in a number of ways. It could be cultural fit, it could be the skills that they demonstrate or have, or the potential indeed that they have. So the fact that it's a competition means that you've got to be the very best that you can be. And to come to the second part of your question, Alex, I believe that the interview starts the minute you commit to that process, whether that's an online application, a paper-based application, or a telephone interview. Because from that moment forward, those people who want to interview you, and remember, it's quite a time-consuming and it costs money to do this, they are going to be making judgments on you right from the word go. So you've got to be the best you can be. So be as prepared as you can be. So remember it's a competition and be the best you can be as a start point.
Yeah, good. So I think that's a valid point, isn't it? I think to know that you might be effectively competing against 4 or 5 or 6 others, it is important to consider that, isn't it? That, you need to be above the rest and what would make you stand out, I suppose, as well. So Nick, on that topic then, so I guess, you're thinking about it as a competition. How would you maybe start preparing yourself for an interview once you've done that application? What sort of things would you look at, I guess?
I look at it 2 ways. Firstly, I would congratulate myself because I've got an interview. There's a lot of people that don't even get interviews these days. So that's the first part. Congratulate yourself. You've done well so far. Build on that. Build on that confidence. Look at the role that you're going to apply for. Look at the company. Research them. People sometimes even say research the panels. I'm not too worried about that. But research the company. You can see on their websites what their culture's like, what they're looking for. Do they invest in the environment? Do they invest in the young generation? You can pick a lot up on the web these days about a company. That is such an important part. Prepare yourself. If you're going to ask me about myself, I even drive from my house to where I'm going to have the interview probably a couple of days before, so I know that I'm going to arrive on time. I've picked out what I'm going to wear. I know what I'm going to wear, and it'll probably be the same clothes for every interview. Let's hope it's with a different company and they don't, notice that I'm always in the same shirt. But prepare. I also, you can research on the internet about questions, what questions they're going to ask you, what questions you're going to ask them. Don't get to the end and let someone say to you, have you got any questions for me? And you go, no. Prepare. Preparation is everything. So my first thing about everything is yourself. And do you know what? I'm even vain enough to look in the mirror. So I look in the mirror to see what I'm like. I have even, I've my learning skills is different to everybody else, I think. And same, we're all individuals, so we all learn differently. Write the questions down and sit with a family member or a friend. Get them to ask these 10 questions.
Yeah.
The first one will be, why do you want to work for us?
Mm.
The next one will say, what do you bring to this company? And there'll be another question, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I've practiced all the answers to them, but I practice them so that they're natural and they're not like reading it or script. That's why you can initially start in a mirror and then move on to a family friend or someone who will critique you and say, oh, you're looking aggressive. You know, you're staring at someone. Oh, you're laid back like that. It looks like you're asleep. And we've all got characteristics. You know, some people stand up, some people tap a desk, some people click their fingers.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that. It will give you the really basic tips to sit there, stand there, look professional, and come across as professional. And the other thing is, communication skills are everything. But people are different. Some people are shy, some people are loud, some people are quiet. Really, that's irrelevant. But if you walk into a room, you look someone in the eye, and you say, good morning, good afternoon, how are you? Come across as polite. Please, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't come across as, I've had people, I was in front of a class yesterday, and some people, they come across aggressive. They come across as if they don't really want to be there. It's like this is their last opportunity to get a job, but they don't really want this job. You've got to get that all out of your head. You've got to come across as enthusiastic with the ability to do well for that company.
Yeah, I think they're all really good points. And I think one of the things that I think, you know, when I've been to an interview in the past that I really want to try and get across, and, you know, doing all that preparation really helps, is because I know the answer to some of these questions and I've prepared them, it makes me feel more comfortable. It allows me to bring my personality out in the interview a bit more as well, which I think, you know, when I've come out of an interview, and I think I've done really well when you're kind of reflecting on it, one of the things that is a bit of an indicator for me is that I've been able to almost express my personality in that meeting and warm to the panel interview. So I think that, you know, all those points allow you to be a bit more comfortable, don't they? When you're sat in the room, you know, you're opposite three people, it might even be four, and they're taking it in turns to send questions your way. I think that's really valuable. Rob, I think you wanted to add to that as well.
So just to add to Nick's point there about the preparation and getting the family and friends around to ask you questions, that's a really great way. But I suggest you take that comfort zone a little bit, a bit beyond your comfort zone. So once you've practiced that, sat down in the format, get them to throw a question at you when you're not expecting it. So when you're walking around the garden or you're in the car or somewhere, and what it does is it helps that preparation. It helps to embed it, because what you can do is you can get into a mindset of, I'm in a room, okay, I'm kind of a prepared parrot, I'm an actor on stage, which is understandable, but that mental sharpness, but the personality you mentioned, absolutely,
yeah, I suppose, yeah, right, in terms of finding that balance, isn't it? You don't want to feel like you've scripted everything to an extent that you almost come across robotic. So yeah, that kind of, you know your stuff, you know what you want to get across, but at the same time it does become natural as well. Yeah.
I'll give everybody a live example. Alex, what's your weakness?
I think my greatest weakness would probably be I try to sometimes bite off more than I can chew in terms of the amount of work that I can take on. So sometimes, on occasion, elements of that perhaps mean that I sometimes feel overwhelmed, I think, when I'm trying to help as many people as possible.
And see, that was we never spoke about that before.
That was really hard, that, actually.
If someone just out of the blue throws the question to you, even in an interview, and you're not expecting it, I could see the old clogs clicking over and everything else. I could see you thinking about that. If I was going to mark you on that, you did really well. But the point being is you carried it across, and it felt like it was definitely genuine, which everybody on the panel will appreciate. Honesty, you're being genuine, your feelings come across in that. And that's the point I'm trying to explain to our younger generation when they're going for a job. It's not about being a robot and answering the questions. It's about putting a bit of emotion in. It's about finding your weaknesses. It's about overcoming them. It's all different things rolled into one. Some people are not even going to mention what qualifications you've got. When I sit on a panel, there's two of us. My construction manager, he reads the CVs. I don't read the CVs. I much prefer just talking about them. And the first question I'll ever ask is, tell me about yourself. And then I'm interested. I understand what that person's about, what sports they do, the family background, if they've been on holidays, where they've been on holidays. People just unload on you. And it's so refreshing to hear where they come from, how they've got there, what they're like in class, who their friends are. It plays a big part in interviews. And if you can't roll that off your tongue, or they think that you are making it up, it doesn't come across right.
Yeah.
Nick, so that's a great example that you just presented Alex with, and that's the way it happens. But you remember that sharpness of mind I spoke about. If you can turn that round by saying, okay, yeah, I recognise. I mean, one of my weaknesses, it's attention to detail, but a lot of people recognise weaknesses can be strengths and strengths can be weaknesses. So turn it round. So people will say, Alex, you said about how you bite off a little bit more than you can chew. But I prefer to think of it as ambition. I'm really willing and I'm really capable and I really want to get on. So try and flip it round if you can, rather than kind of sit there apologetically.
That's a really good point, isn't it? And I think, if and that often is a question that's asked at interview, what would you class as your weakness? And you mentioned, the weakness. But if you can, as you say, spin it on the opposite head to make it sound like you've managed to turn it into a positive, and that's really, really positive. That's a really good way of looking at it, I think, and that's something I think they can take forward as well. I think one of the biggest things that we've all highlighted is really important is that preparation, and I suppose preparation by looking at the company as well and trying to understand a bit more about them, but also a bit more about themselves and what sort of skills they have and possess as well. So I guess, Rob, I'll come to you in a kind of summary. What would you say are the biggest takeaways for you in terms of preparation for that interview?
Okay, so understand when it starts. It's a competition. Be the very best that you can be. Do that preparation that Nick alluded to, and it's multifaceted. It's not just a case of just looking up on the internet. Do as much preparation as you can. One good way I found is to actually go to the company, ring them up or talk to them. Some companies won't allow it, some people do. So you can find out from people. But it's also then taking it through the process and knowing that in the process, it doesn't stop when they say, thank you, that was a great interview, and walk out. You can still learn from it at the end. So I guess, all of those things, and to take heart and take the positives, as Nick said. But I know Nick's going to add some more to this now, I guess.
Yeah, but remember one thing, my one bit of advice to everyone, there's only one first impression, and don't ruin it. The first impression is everything. I think I've harped on about all the things that you should do, and I keep saying about honesty. I'm going to give you an over where I don't think honesty probably was the best answer. I've got two 18-year-olds in front of me. They're at college. They do 3 days a week, and 2 days a week they do whatever they want. So I said to them, right, what do you do on your 2 days off? The guy A said to me, I work part-time in a fish and chip shop, and on the other days I labour for whoever I can. Boy B said to me, I don't really get out of bed. I play Xbox all day and I watch films. That little bit of honesty was probably too much. I wouldn't have said that, although he was being honest. That's an example of being over honest. Even if you say, I help out around the house, I help out, you've got to say that you do something rather than lay in bed all day and play Xbox. And I can see some of you laughing, and you probably fall into that bracket, but don't admit it in public.
Furthering my driving skills.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Well, I guess something as well, Robert, you wanted to allude to was, it's on the back of the interview as well. So I think they were the key takeaways to hopefully take into an interview. But I know you wanted to add in a little bit more about what you should do on the back of an interview. especially if you haven't been successful, which that happens to everybody, that's for sure. You know, what's your thoughts on that once the interview's concluded?
Okay, well, first of all, and again, I go back to the point Nick made. So, well done, you got the interview. I've used the term I've secured an interview. You've had the interview, you've gone through the process, so you can reflect what went well, what didn't go well, what might I do next. Now, you're not saying to yourself, I haven't got this job. All you're doing is you're going through a process that a lot of top people go through, whether they're sports performers or various people in business. They're just doing a quick and dirty analysis on what's just happened. So what went well, what didn't go well, what could I do better? Then obviously you wait for the result. Now, if the result isn't the one you wanted, okay, don't lose heart. It could be for any number of reasons. It may be that you just don't fit the culture of that company. It may be that there were 9 other people and 2 of the 9 other people who went for the job were better placed for the job. It's not that you're bad. You haven't failed. You just haven't succeeded in this moment. So take heart from that. What can you learn? Now, good luck with this, and I mean this with respect because employers are very busy people, but try and get some feedback from the interview panel or the interview panelists or the company as to why you didn't. So it's about building from strength to strength. And Nick said earlier about building on the positives. So don't lose heart, and then take what you've got there to the next interview that you're going to secure.
Fantastic. Anything to add on that, Nick? I think that was probably quite a nice way to close, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rob. I think that we all come across failure in many different ways. And if I say to you that we'll put a job advert out and we'll probably get over 100 applicants, we have to narrow that down because our time, we have got day jobs as well. So we will narrow that down to 10 people, maximum of 10, normally 5 actually, if I'm being truthful. And so 95 people are not going to make the interview. Then we've got 5 people. We do try and give feedback. In fact, we do give feedback after the interview. We don't obviously tell them if they've got the job, but we give feedback in any way which we can. Take it on board, learn from it. Make sure it's not forgotten though, and you write it down and you have this little, I don't know, book or post it on the wall. If I go to another interview, don't do this. Because I tell you now, in that interview, your mind is going to be left, right, forward. You're answering the second question. Rob said it early. You're answering the second question and you're thinking about the first question. Should I have answered that different? Well, what if I got that? Should I get it in the answers to this question? You've got to try and block everything out of your mind. Do your bit. Show off. All you're doing is selling you. Sell yourself. No one can do it better than you. No one knows if you're lying. No one knows if you're telling the truth. All I'm saying is it's your time to sell yourself. Prepare. If you don't get it right first time, try again because there's plenty of jobs out there. You just need to find the right one for you.